Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for not letting my in-laws move in with me? I, 24F, met my husband, 23 male, met when we were 15 and 16 in high school. We found out I was pregnant shortly after we started dating, and I gave birth to our son at 17. Since then our relationship was on a fast track, and we got married at 21 after finishing school. We bought a house last year and my in-laws have not been super supportive of our decisions. They made constant jokes about selling their house to move in with us and bringing my husband's two siblings, both adults, with them since they lived with them full time. But it all changed when they tried to push us to buy a bigger and more expensive house than we wanted so that we had room for the family to come visit and stay. My mother-in-law kept showing husband houses she liked, and when he told her we were looking for something different she told him we had to compromise for the family. They finally lost it on us when we told them we put an offer in on a house more than 7 hours away, which was in an area we planned to move to all along. We just never told them, and they didn't handle that well, telling me I'm taking their son and grandchild away from them. The offer went through and we moved in as soon as possible, but had to deal with in-laws constantly coming to visit uninvited. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were showing up every weekend for months without calling in advance. Husband and I both tried to explain that we are constantly having to cancel weekend plans for their visits and canceling other friends and family visits because of them, but they do not care, making my home their second home, not listening to our rules, and constantly undermining me in my own home. Finally we told them if they didn't call and ask in advance they would be turned away at the door, and they stopped showing up. 2 weeks ago husband got a call from Phil saying that his job had laid him off and he would be short on expenses this month. That's when mother-in-law took the phone and suggested this be the perfect time for them to come move closer to us. They were already looking to sell their home and they could all come stay with us until Phil found a new job. We told them a home couldn't accommodate 4 more people, nor could we financially support them. Phil insisted it wouldn't be for long, but he is very frugal and does not like to spend money unnecessarily, and I feel like this is just an excuse to cut back on living expenses for them. I also want my son to have room to grow and have room for a second child sometime in the next year or so. My husband is in the middle and understands why I don't want them moving in, but at the same time thinks we shouldn't turn our backs on his family. I'm torn because I think I have solid arguments for why they shouldn't, but it's my husband's house too, and I don't want to upset him. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. They're lying. They will move in and never leave. Hold your ground. In my experience not long means 1 to 2 years. Definition not the a-hole. 1-2 years. In this case, it means forever. Edited to change the locks. Even if you don't think they've got a key. NTA. NTA if you let them move in, they will never leave, and they will mooch off you and your husband and probably ruin your marriage. Your home can't accommodate yourselves and your child. 2 more adults, 2 more children and all of their belongings. Your husband needs to tell his parents that he's sorry they are facing difficulties, but that dad needs to apply for new jobs and both mom and dad need to work. He needs to tell them that they won't be able to move into your house for any length of time. If they want to live in your area, they should start applying for jobs and looking for rentals. He further needs to tell them that he would be happy to look over their finances to see if there's room for improvement, but the 2 of you can't afford to financially support them. He needs to be kind but firm. There's a good chance that mother-in-law and Phil plan to move in with you and your husband and retire, expecting you to pay their living expenses for the remainder of their lives. Given their insistence, allowing them to move in when they are relatively young and healthy would be a big mistake. Am I the antagonist for snapping at my pregnant sister and her husband? Throwaway. Names changed. My 26F sister Chelsea, 33F, is currently pregnant with her 3-year-old baby. Her husband John is your typical Disney dad. Doesn't do much to help out with his kids, and if he's not at work, he's hanging out with his friends rather than helping look after his home. Chelsea is totally okay with this because you can't expect men to keep house. And he has a good income. My family has pretty traditional values. A couple days ago Chelsea called me asking if I wanted to come over after work to spend some time with the kids. I love my niece and nephew and I had some time to spare. So I say sure. I arrive at her house. Mom was there as well helping out and she asks me if I could help with some of the chores. I agree. Now, my fiance and I actually planned a date night for that night. We haven't had one in a while because he's on duty almost 24/7. I told Mom and Chelsea I'm going to leave to meet up with fiance. Mom asks if I can stay back a bit more to help with the kids' dinner and stuff. I say sorry, but I need to go. I've already stayed over an hour. Chelsea then says that I'm not being supportive of her and I can stay a bit longer for moral support. Again, I say I can't when Chelsea tells Mom, "Oh, let her go, it's fine. It's not her fault, she doesn't understand what it's like to have a family." John came home by this time and is listening into all the commotion. So I tell them, in a pretty annoyed tone, I'll admit, if you had a supportive husband instead of one who shows up when it's convenient for him, you wouldn't need your sister to make up for that support. Everyone looks a bit shocked. Then Chelsea says at least she's not a working wife, like I'm going to be. Honestly don't even know what that means, but sure, and that I'm jealous. And brother-in-law says I'm disrespecting them and to leave, which of course I was more than happy to do. Mom calls me the next day saying I went way too far and Chelsea was hurt after hearing me say those things and feels distant from me. She said that I was intentionally making Chelsea sick. That's obviously not my intention at all, and I feel pretty bad now. But I also feel like what I said needed to be said. You know, am I the antagonist? Edit, spelling. Now for the top comments. NTA. Nobody gets sick from being reminded their husband could put in his fair share of effort on the childcare front, unless they're making themselves sick. Especially not after trying to pull the "you're just jealous" card. Tell Mom if she's not going to join you in making Chelsea take some responsibility for her life choices, she can at least leave you out of it and ignore any further efforts to put this on you. NTA. Coming over to see niece/nephew does not equal free cleaning service. I think it's your sister feeling sick because she knows you're right and it jealous of you and your life. Don't let it phase you and move on. Chelsea needs a wake up call and you provided that. She's upset because she knows you're right. NTA. Also, threeth baby thirth baby. That made me laugh //carrot // Am I the antagonist for letting my friend eat the food my pregnant wife wanted? My wife is pregnant and has a lot of cravings. On Sunday night we had some of my friends over and I had cooked 2 dinners. I had cooked some mac and cheese and I had also cooked a traditional food from my wife's country. My wife was craving the traditional food and had said she'd not eat mac and cheese so she could eat the traditional dish. She got kinda sick at some point and went to lie down and didn't want to eat yet and said she'll eat later when she gets up. Most of my friends wanted to try out the traditional dish and mac and cheese was left unto shade. Then another friend of mine arrived and I asked him if he wanted to eat and he said yes. I saw that there was only 1 plate left of the traditional dish, but out of politeness I had to ask him what he preferred and he said the traditional dish, so I gave him the last plate. Half an hour later my wife got up and she was hungry. She went to make her plate and saw that the traditional dish was over and she got upset and said, "You didn't keep any for me?" I said the guys wanted to try it out. She started tearing up and said, "I told you I was craving it and you supposedly made it because I was craving it." One of my friends asked why I can't make some more, but the ingredients were finished and the grocery store was closed, so I couldn't get any more ingredients at that moment. She went to bed tearing up and didn't eat anything. She didn't want mac and cheese. My friends told me that she's acting like a spoiled kid and I should ignore her, but I can't help but feel like an ass for not keeping her a plate. Now for the top comments. AITA. You made it specifically for her. You should have reserved some from the beginning. Oh, I think it's worse. He did save her some, since there was only 1 plate left, and then still offered it to his friend. Fassipum. AITA. And so are your entitled friends. Are you the first one in your friend group to have children? Pregnancy cravings are very real. Even if she weren't pregnant, not saving her a plate was rude. What were you thinking? You owe your wife a huge apology. Even if she weren't pregnant, not saving her a plate was rude. This right here. Pregnant or not, brothers don't come before family. If the choice was sick, not pregnant wife who had regular cravings for a specific dish you agreed to cook for her vs friend, you pick wife. There was no reason for the friend to know the other dish was even an option. You ran out. End of story. Am I the antagonist for my response after a guest told me to sit on his lap? 31-year-old female was invited to an event via my friend. Won't get into details about it, but I found out last minute that my friend couldn't come, so I went alone, since I was really looking forward to seeing the atmosphere and enjoy a bit after working all week. So I arrived to the event a bit late, not gonna lie. Guests were already seated, and there was already someone talking to the mic. I stood there in the corner looking for an empty chair. Suddenly a guy in his 30s, I think, waves for me. I look closer thinking he must have had an available chair next to him or something, but he then, as I was approaching him, he proceeded to pat his lap and tell me I could sit there. I was shocked and completely caught off guard. I freaked out from the inside, but remained calm and loudly responded, "No thanks, but my ass is too big for your small lap." Suddenly pause. Some in the back laughed, which made the guy look red in the face. He mumbled something about just trying to mess with me, a joke, and that there was no need for my uncivil, inappropriate comment. I ended up getting a chair from a gentleman in the second row and remained seated till the event was over. As I was walking out, a couple of ladies approached me asking about what happened and told me that my response was too inappropriate for this event and for saying it out loud. That's a bit too far. I tried to cut the conversation, but they told me my behavior was inappropriate and made the whole event look bad and embarrassed for a simple jokey attempt at teasing. I went home feeling bad about it and guilty. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. I don't understand how your comment is more inappropriate than his. Not the a-hole. The difference is that the man was sexually harassing Op quietly. Op was indiscreet enough to respond loudly enough for everyone in the room to hear. Unless the event was an orgy, I think that Op responded appropriately and is not the a-hole. Mayo, not the a-hole. Guy was trying to sexually harass you and got put in his place. Sit on your own lap, pal. No, that's terrible. I can't think of any response better than Op's. Am I the antagonist for refusing to let my mom and dad's boyfriend walk me down the aisle? So, I, 24F, am graduating from university in like just under a month, so my fiance and I have started planning our wedding. My mom and dad had me fairly young. They were both 20 and up until I was 13. They both argued and yelled at each other a lot. Then all of a sudden they just stopped. Things got better between them. They both got a lot happier, and we started doing a lot more family activities. Us three would watch a show every night. We'd go to the movies or a restaurant, or hiking and stuff on the weekends. We'd start having little parties and stuff when I got good grades. Then when I was 14, they introduced me to Brian, 33 now, 23 then, and told me that he was their boyfriend and they'd been seeing him for a year, and he was moving in with us. Things got so weird after that. Like we stopped watching shows every night. On weekends if we were going someplace it'd either be me and mom and dad stays home with Brian, or me and dad and mom stays home with Brian. The only thing that stayed the same were the little parties for good grades. It was so weird being around Brian alone, but even weirder when he'd get affectionate with mom and dad in front of me, and I honestly stopped bringing my friends over after one of them saw him and dad getting into it on the couch. But he always made my mom and dad happy and never gets in my way if I'm sad and I need to cry to dad or cuddle my mom. So why would I do anything about it? Well, my parents came to me with this genius idea that my dad and Brian should both be the ones to walk me down the aisle, saying Brian was kind of like a stepdad to me, but he wasn't. Yes, I'll say he's family, but he's not any kind of dad to me. I made it clear that I only want my dad to walk me down the aisle. They asked if I could give him any other role. I said no, and they both got sad and said it was like I was rejecting their bond with Brian. My fiance said he supports me, but my cousins are staying out of it cause they always found the situation weirder. Maybe I'm wrong though cause Brian means a lot to my parents, so if I'm the asshole here, please let me know. Now for the top comments. NTA. Brian could be a literal god to your parents, and it wouldn't matter, because it's not their wedding. Right. NTA. He's your parents' boyfriend, not your stepdad. It sounds like he never parented you, just tolerated you. Why would he get a parental role in your wedding? Cause he picked me up from summer school one time. Geez, you should have put that in the post. Now you owe him everything/s. NTA from the sounds of it, you don't seem to have a relationship with Brian. So why in the world would he want to walk you down the aisle? Is it just to show the world that they are polyamorous? It's not their day, it's yours. If they want to broadcast they are poly, then they can do that on a different day, but not your wedding. Op, you've handled this way more respectfully than I would have. Edit, changed polygamist to polyamorous. Am I the antagonist for telling my husband that he didn't to embarrass the waitress? My husband, 34, is your brutally honest type of guy. He's also incredibly attractive because he takes good care of his appearance. From when we started dating I pretty much got used to strangers or servers complimenting his looks and expressing their admiration in different ways. I always found it harmless, but he'd get so worked up over the smallest comments from people. He thinks it's rude and ignorant. We went out to eat at a new diner. When we gave the waitress our orders, she looked at my husband, smiled and complimented his hair. He smiled and said thank you. He then looked at me and asked if I noticed how the waitress was basically trying to flirt. I did notice, but figured maybe she did this to get more tip or something, since it's pretty common practice, and I myself used to do it. He looked at me shocked and asked, really? He then dropped it till the waitress got back with our meals. As she was putting the food down at the table he looked at her and said, hey, let me tell you a little secret. She looked at him and was like He then said, I have been all around the world for the past 10 years and I've seen many beautiful women, but I'm married. He stressed like this, to the most beautiful one, and she's all I see now and forever. The waitress looked dumbfounded. She smiled awkwardly, then asked why he was telling her this. He replied saying that it's to save her time and effort with whatever she was trying to do. She looked down and quickly walked away. I said that was hurtful and was uncalled for, but he said that she needed to hear it to learn a lesson and know her place. I told him she was just being harmlessly flirty, barely, which could be her way of getting better tips, and that he didn't need to embarrass her like that. He was like, I don't get you. You should be encouraging me to shut this shit down. Instead I said it was just a comment she made about his hair and that's it. He got upset and said that I made him feel shitty for trying to set a boundary for himself, but I thought he overreacted. AITA. Now for the top comments. NTA. Used to receiving compliments or not, that's an awful way to view it. Compliments don't equal sexual attraction. You can compliment a friend or stranger without feeling the need to be in a relationship or to have sex. Dude sounds like he jumps to conclusions and then boasts to make himself feel better. Maybe he needs to start giving out compliments instead of only receiving them to gain some humbleness back. Yeah, sounds like he has a massive ego, hahaha. Can you imagine being a 34-year-old man obsessed with your appearance and probably telling everyone about every time a stranger says something nice to you? Cringy. NTA. Complimenting his hair is hardly the same as her coming on to him. I admire you for managing to bear with this man though, because he sound insufferable. Op, my husband is the brutally honest type me. Every time a person says that, yes. So you are about to tell me a story about how your husband is a giant asshole. Proceed. Apostrophe.